Six Nations, folks, is on this weekend. Where can you watch in your part of the world? Happily, if you guys are in many of the Six Nations, you'll be able to watch for free. For the rest of us, there's usually some kind of paywall in the way, but we'll go through the broadcast options and also some of the pundits you can expect to hear on the different broadcasters. We're mainly looking at the English ones for that. But yeah, and you guys can let us know your thoughts on who you are particularly looking forward to listening to and who you may mute while you go make a cup of tea. For the UK, it's the usual suspects of the BBC and ITV. BBC have got 5 of the games this year, which I think is pretty standard, and ITV has 10. I know there's always a little bit of controversy about whether this is technically free to air on the BBC because you guys have got that license fee or whatever you got to pay, but ultimately it's not like a new subscription, right? It's not like a Sky Sports subscription to pay. And yeah, there's the 15 games across the 2 channels. You can stream them, you can watch on your TV, so that's good because rugby competing with so many other sports, if you can get more eyeballs on the game, for mine, that's only a good thing. I live in a part of the world where pretty much all the rugby is behind a paywall. So, yeah, the fact that it's free to air for such a major competition, I think, is phenomenal. So, for the BBC, I'm not going to go through all their pundits, but they've got the likes of Matt Dawson, Sam Warburton. Sam Warburton's stuff I do enjoy. I think he's pretty insightful. Nigel Owens, Martin Johnson, Tommy Bowe, John Barclay. So I know Nigel Owens kind of rubs some people up the wrong way, but it's, I think, nice to also get a bit of referees' insight. Some referees are more insightful than others. They used to have Glenn Jackson on Sky Sports here in New Zealand, and didn't find his stuff that engaging, but Nige, I think, is at least better at talking to a camera than perhaps some of the others. For ITV, they've got 10 of the games, like I mentioned. They've certainly got a whopping list of pundits, including Sir Clive. If you like Clive Woodward stuff, then yeah, he's going to be on there. Personally, he's more of a cup of tea guy for me. I'm off doing something else if he's on the screen. Johnny Wilkinson, Brian O'Driscoll, Maggie Alfonsi, Rory Best, Gareth Thomas, Jamie Roberts, George Gregan, Ian McGeechan, Ben Kaser. Ben Kaser, I think, is quite insightful. He's probably one of my preferred guys from the ITV stuff. Obviously, he's going to get the French games, I would say. So, yeah, there's a bunch of big guns on all these broadcasters. Obviously, all the Welsh games are on S4C if you want to listen to your games in the Welsh language. But, yeah, happily for you guys in the UK, more or less free to air on all the games, and some big name pundits on either one of the channels. For Ireland, also happily free to air. Isn't that wonderful? On RTE or Virgin, they've got a more even split of the games, and they don't seem to have employed quite so many pundits, or at least they haven't listed them all. I'm sure there are more that they've listed. They've listed on RTE, they've listed Jamie Heaslip, Hannah Terrell, and Simon Zebo. For Virgin Media, they've got Rob Carney and Fiona Hayes. So certainly some knowledgeable pundits, and there'll be others. What's their former Scottish guy, the former Scottish coach, the Aussie guy, Matt, whatever his name is? He'll always be on. Can't stand that guy as well, but there'll be some quality ones, I'm sure. And free to air, happy days. France, also free to air. I'm less likely to listen to the French stuff just because I don't speak French, but if you are a French speaker, or if you can't stand listening to English commentary and you want to watch in a language you don't understand, the French games are all free to air as well, obviously, if you're in France. So happy days for all these countries, free to air. Now, everywhere else I'm going to get to is paid. So I will say, if you want to potentially circumvent having to subscribe to a separate service for the Six Nations and you've got a VPN, like I tried ExpressVPN and it works for BBC, ITV, RTE, Virgin and France too. You can just jump on. Sometimes you have to create an account and enter a postcode, but that's Googleable. You can just jump on and watch the games for free. If you don't like the BBC commentators, you can switch to the Irish. If you don't want to switch to any English, you can switch to French. So yeah, all those games are on free, live or on demand. So if you've got a VPN, happy days. If you don't have a VPN, like I said, I use Express. I'll put a link down in the description. I've been using that sucker for years, literally back when I was in China behind the Great Firewall. I used to use Express. So yeah, I think it's a pretty useful service just because of how much rugby is actually on free to air. Sometimes it's Twitter content and whatnot that's blocked. You can use a VPN to get around it. So yeah, link down in the description to Express. They got the whole 30-day money back guarantee and all that stuff, so you can give it a crack, and if it doesn't work you can get rid of it, but works for me anyway, so I'll put that out there. The rest of the services, like I said, are paid, so the Italians are the only ones who've got to pay for their Six Nations. It's on Sky Italia. For Supersport, you guys have pretty much got all the rugby on that one broadcaster, which is cool, although what everyone tells me is it's pretty pricey, which is kind of unfortunate. For the Aussies, it seems to be a relatively low-priced Stan service. Like, I know in Sky New Zealand for like a month, you're looking at $40 for 1 month of sport. That's New Zealand dollars, whereas Stan, I think, is, don't correct me if I'm wrong, it's 20 or 30 something. So it seems to be relatively cheaper. So Stan seems like a pretty good option for you guys in Australia because they got heaps of rugby, including Six Nations. Sky was not mentioned on the Six Nations website. I'm talking about all this information came from the Six Nations website. I'll put the broadcast list down in the description. Do your own checks first, because Sky wasn't listed, but I've checked my Sky broadcast and it's got the Six Nations listed. So the Six Nations website for this one, anyway, for New Zealand, seems to be out of date. A bunch of countries weren't even listed. Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, all not listed. So yeah, check for your own territories just in case. NBC is what they're saying for America, DAZN for Canada. For some other ones not on the board, like Argentina is the usual ESPN. For parts of Asia like Singapore, Hong Kong, and like Korea, it's Premier Sports Asia. For Japan, it's Wow Wow. There's a few different broadcasters around Europe, like Germany had one, Denmark had one. So, like I said, check the link down in the description on the Six Nations website if you want to double check. As I said, it may or may not be up to date. Free-to-air broadcasters if you got a VPN. Happy days. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts. Which pundits are you keen to hear? Is Nige a guy you like listening to, or does he kind of grind your gears? But yeah, Six Nations not far away. That can only be a good thing. Take care, folks, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.